Frogger wasn't actually going to be a game at all. It started off as a tech demo of how much screen area could I actually move around with sprites on the BBC Micro. The secret to drawing lots of stuff on screen very quickly is to only load the accumulator once and then store it in many different places. This is about twice as fast as loading, storing, loading, storing. So if you look at, for instance, the top row of logs, you've got 3 fronts of the logs, 3 backs of the logs, but the middle section is 2 more repeated sections, so you actually get 6 copies of that. So to draw a log you need a load for the front, a load for the back and a load for the middle, and then you get to store it 3 times for the front, 3 times for the back and 6 times for the middle. So this costs you roughly 15, whereas it would have cost you 24 if you'd done it the normal way. In fact, the memory usage in Frogger is about 16k for the screen and about 12k of unrolled assembler loops to draw everything as fast as possible. So there's actually different copies of the code depending on how high the sprites are, whether they're 10, 12 or 14 pixels, and how many copies there are, whether there's 3 logs or 2 logs or 6 centerpieces or 4 centerpieces. The timing for the initial level is actually about 19.5 milliseconds out of the 20 that are available, and when the frog's in the air that actually goes up to about 20.1, so fortunately it lands long enough for it to catch up before you see any flicker. This does mean there's no time to draw the extra sports cars, which should be the first change at the end of the level. So what it actually does is it removes one of the logs first, which would be the next thing that changed in the arcade game, and then with the time it's saved for that it can draw the extra cars in the bottom. Frogger was also the first game that I started using a technique to hide the edges of the screen. So the visible area is 224 by 256, the same as the arcade, but the actual screen memory used is 256 wide instead of 224. What this means is there's a bunch of pixels that are hidden off the side of the screen, and I use this so that when a log goes off the edge of one screen you don't see it appear on the beginning of the next line, which is what it would do in memory, because it goes into the bit you can't see. Don't think this actually saves any time, but it makes the code simpler, and with all the unrolled loops there wouldn't be any other way to do it. To achieve this we have to make the display chip think that it's drawing over 30 frames every frame, and each of one of those needs an interrupt to set the addresses for the next row of characters. On the newer games I only do an interrupt every 2 character rows, one right at the end and one right at the beginning of the next row, and since the address is latched this works. I also use the technique of waiting in the middle of the screen for the raster before I draw the top half, and then waiting at the bottom before I draw the bottom half. This gives me the most time to allow for any overrun on any frames. Do you like my croc log, also known as Viking long croc? It's because I didn't have enough memory left to do the graphics for a crocodile in the river, and also it's cheaper to draw the section because it's the same as a log, so it actually draws a log and then puts the head and tail over the top of it. The logs and cars etc. that are on the screen now are what you get for the remainder of the levels, although they do still keep speeding up each time. And these are the ones that are actually drawn at full speed. Where there's another log that might be drawn as well, then it's done as a separate load and store. To save having an unrolled loop for 1 and 2, it has an unrolled loop for 1 and an unrolled loop for the other one. Frogger will also take advantage of a VideoNuLA if you've got one, and then you'll have the actual arcade colours while you're playing the game. It doesn't actually bother trying to detect a VideoNuLA. What it actually does is sets, say, flashing magenta and whatever it is to be brown for the logs, then magenta to be purple for the grass in the middle, then flashing something magenta to be the magenta for the cars in the bottom half of the screen. Then in the top half of the screen it only displays the first of the flashing colours, and in the bottom half it only displays the second of the flashing colours, so that it doesn't even need to know if it's there. If there's no NuLA, the colour won't be changed, and the logs, the grass in the middle and the cars will all be purple, magenta. This is because it was believed at the time that you couldn't detect a NuLA, and I didn't want to put another menu option for choosing NuLA or not and another exe to load it or not. Quite often when I'm demoing my stuff at shows, people say, "Oh, that's just like Hopper, just like I used to play." And while Hopper is a very good game, if you go back and look at it now, it's not quite the same. Watch out for snakes!